With the recent announcement from CDPR about a Cyberpunk 2077 sequel, codenamed Orion, I thought it would be interesting to run a poll on what you guys think CDPR needs to implement to live up to the potential set by the previous game. Before we get into this, I absolutely adore Cyberpunk 2077. There hasn't been a game that has made me feel the widest range of emotions more than Cyberpunk, and maybe you can agree, albeit more negatively for some than others for sure, because I won't deny the game has issues.
That's right! You get 'em, boy!
But in my opinion, most of the issues arose in the marketing of the game and what was to be expected more so than the actual product we were delivered. But that's a whole other video. So back to the poll. I'll start with the least popular decision, more leisure activities. In Cyberpunk 2077 as of patch 1.6, we have a few options as far as this goes. Not many, but just enough to keep those people satisfied. Kinda. As the poll shows, only 5% think this needs to be done the most, which goes to show that there is definitely an audience for the more leisurely or mundane parts of Night City. And as you'll see as this video goes along, people just want to be immersed in Night City, and there are a ton of ways that could happen, varying from small details or larger gameplay elements overall. Next up was 7% of people voting for a fully fledged police or wanted system. As I mentioned, we are at patch 1.6 at the time of recording, and the police system, while being slightly better than at launch, is almost non-existent. With the potential of MaxTac and how they are represented even in the first hour of the game, it's disappointing to see how underwhelming they are throughout the remainder, with not much mention from anyone or anything throughout the story. I'll be talking about MaxTac a bit more later in the video, so stay tuned for that. Now, with the announcement of an overhauled police system and vehicle-to-vehicle combat, I'm very curious what the situation will be pre or post Phantom Liberty. Unfortunately for 2077, this is more than just a gameplay issue. This is an overall AI issue, and I'm excited and kind of nervous to see how this will be rolled out for the remaining life of 2077. But the sequel will have huge potential to change that, and I'd love to make an update on this video once 2077 has reached its final form. Next up, with 18% of the people's votes, we have car or vehicle or cyberware customization, and I'll even extend this further to wardrobe customization. As I mentioned earlier in this video, you guys, and me too, just want to be immersed in Night City, and that means showing off your style or your inner net runner or whatever it might be. With the marketing of 2077, people were so excited to try out different clothes, different styles, and see how that may impact how they are perceived by the world around them. That has never really been a reality in 2077, and I think we would all love to see that actually make it into Cyberpunk Orion, at least at some capacity. But that all goes back to their ability to make a better AI system for NPCs. It'd be awesome just to be walking around and hear someone comment on your neo-kitsch outfit, or like talk about how you would look late for a meeting if you're rocking corpo attire. Would really just make you feel cemented into the world around you. And speaking of clothes, I love the tremendous amount of options offered in 2077, but I think they can go even further with player expression. Take Destiny for example, or like Fable 2. Are you excited for that new Fable coming out? I know y'all play Fable 2. You get garments, but you can also acquire dyes or different colorways, so if you find new gear and love a certain colorway, there are ways to preserve that look between different items of clothing. I just think the idea of a color slider in many of the customization options would go a long way for player expression and enjoyment. Then if you can further customize the appearance of your cybernetics by choosing different color schemes or materials and stuff for your mantis blades or gorilla arms, there would be no two players looking the same. Guaranteed. On top of that, paint shops or body shops for vehicles would be incredible. Obviously, I'm kind of ripping GTA here, but it'd be so sick to change the body styling or colors of vehicles throughout physical locations on the map. Maybe even make racing a more viable leisure activity, or have a longer or multiple quest lines to serve those players who really want to experience Night City street races, which sounds sick. Could you imagine a Need for Speed game set in a Cyberpunk universe? That'd be dope. Which I guess like a Need for Speed Unbound looks kind of cool. I like the vibe that it's got going. Definitely underground vibes there. But could you imagine that being in the Night City setting? Be amazing. I'll also go a bit further into that as well when we reach the most popular choice by far. But before we do that, I want to review some comments and throw in a couple of my own thoughts of what I think the Cyberpunk sequel needs to nail. I'll roll through these pretty quick, maybe, I don't really know. My goal with this video is to bring attention to what a chunk of the community finds most important of the Cyberpunk experience. Ultimately, if anyone at CDPR gets wind of this video, I'd love it for it to be informative, supportive, and full of great ideas to create the best Cyberpunk experience for everyone in the future. If you like the sound of that, leave a like and comment some of the things you want to see in the sequel. Maybe together we can make a difference in the game we want to see based on what has been previously given. Alright, so for the top comment here, we have develop cyberpsychosis if symptoms are left unchecked, like in Edgerunners. Ideally for higher difficulties or New Game Plus. 100%. I've seen a lot of people talking about the humanity system the tabletop game features, and if done right, I think it could certainly add a huge amount of depth to the game. My question is how to handle cyberpsychosis. Would you lose control of your character, just game over, commit undesirable acts that could impact how you're perceived by story characters? Maybe is your humanity decreased increases, so does the trust of some characters, but maybe you gain the trust of others, like the Maelstromers who are always on the brink of cyberpsychosis. I don't know. Next up, several people mentioned just a longer main campaign. Cyberpunk was notoriously short due to the stats of The Witcher 3 completion rate. But what I think they failed to realize about Cyberpunk 2077 is just how amazing they built the atmosphere. It's so easy to roam around that game and enjoy the beautiful sights all around. No one's going to complain about impactful stories or an excess of missions in that world. Give us more. We want to enjoy the story more. 100%. Everybody was left wanting more. When it was over, I was like just mad empty. I had put off the main story for as long as I could, and there was just like a handful of missions that I did that seemed to just fly by really fast, and I was really bummed to see the game come to a conclusion that quick. So following that up, there were a handful of people who said they need a third-person perspective. Obviously, that does change the game quite a bit, but it wouldn't hurt to think about including an option like that for people who really want to show off their character more or just see them more. And I don't know, I think you could get some really cool third-person animations going on, especially with the takedown systems that were already existing in 2077. So if they do include a third-person camera, I think it would definitely be in their benefit to be able to do some of those kind of maybe like animations or something. I don't really know how to explain it, but just really cool takedowns that they could animate. And I think they could make some really sweet ones between Mantis Blades, Gorilla Arms, Manowire, and then any of the other cyberware that they end up including. I know they're going to be reworking the cyberware before the release of Phantom Liberty, so I'm very curious what those changes are going to be and how it'll affect what the sequel is going to look like. I also saw people requesting companion followers, which I also think would be very interesting, and I think this could tie in excellently to leisure activities. If you could go to a bar or a restaurant or something and hit up some characters from the story and have them meet you at the spot, and then you head out and do a mission or something, that would do wonders for immersion and gameplay experience. Obviously now you have to bring in how to balance that and what missions they could actually accompany you on, but hey, this video's for ideas, not solutions. There was a couple comments on how to rework the armor system to more accurately represent how it's treated in the tabletop game, and also the net running, which I agree. I want net running to be more expansive and to be able to do more. If someone can be an absolute devastating force just by using a network, let me roleplay that further than breach protocol and quick hacks. And finally, one of my favorite comments, which ties into the #1 slot on the poll: make it an actual RPG. I think V's story will always be V's. I want to write my own. And yes, I think Cyberpunk's biggest downfall, oddly, was the inclusion of Keanu Reeves. Bringing Johnny Silverhand into the mix limited story options incredibly. It involved a narrative that needed to be told, and there was little to be found organically outside of it. Obviously, we had choices and gameplay decisions that affected certain aspects of the story, but at the end of the game, we are all the same. A Night City legend who took on Arasaka in the hopes of getting a construct out of their head. And that's basically it. It was an incredible ride, but it left us all wanting more. So the #1 response: deeper and more impactful life paths. There were also a few comments speaking on joinable factions, which I think could fit perfectly into life paths. With the E3 demo, we saw multiple choices for a background. That was cut in favors of life paths. I think you and I both agree the appeal of life paths was tremendous. The actual outcome, so-so. It definitely creates wildly different intros for everyone, but I think it can go further, much further. I love the idea of Corpo, Nomad, and Street Kid, but what do all of these paths include as well? Gangs. Like if you're choosing to be a nomad, it would be awesome if there could be a few other options that go into what kind of nomad you are, or what gang you run with. Same with Street Kid. Maybe choose your geographic location and that determines a gang that you're affiliated with. Or for Corpo, what corporation are you working for? Arasaka, Militech, maybe even go further. An occupational life path, maybe include storylines for NCPD or MaxTac. Explore Trauma Team more. Maybe we can be a nobody, a garbage collector, who knows? But maybe with these life paths we can explore other advantages each one could have, kind of like we've seen for the character creation for Starfield. The options are truly endless, and I think that's what makes it so difficult. But if they can flesh out a few of these life paths and make them more replayable and impactful throughout the story, it would encourage player expression and replayability to just see just how different the game could be simply by choosing your background. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too ambitious, but those are the things you guys think the Cyberpunk sequel needs most to truly succeed. I didn't want to make this video too long or anything, so I left out a lot of things that I thought personally, or some things that I would want to see personally for me. So if that's something you'd like to see, let me know in the comments or something. I'll make another video about things that I'd like to see in the Cyberpunk sequel. If not, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.